The components of your estate plan include personal property directions, disability and health planning, estate transfer, and then a category of miscellaneous documents. Let's first begin with estate transfer. Estate transfer is really just the concept of moving assets of a deceased person to a living heir or beneficiary. The word heir, H-E-I-R, is archaic. It comes from English common law, beneficiary as well. Now, an heir is a person that receives an inheritance or assets from a deceased person. A beneficiary is a person that is entitled to property from a trust. And you'll learn a lot about trust later on, but that's the legal distinction between the two. The documents that we use in estate transfer are the last will and testament. And within the last will and testament, we have this trust that we use to protect the assets of the deceased spouse, called a spousal protection trust. We also use agreements. In your case, we would likely use 3 different documents. One is a simplified community property agreement. Another is an enhanced community property agreement, which is called Agreement as to Disposition and Status of Property. Then an addendum schedule of assets. You'll learn more about what those documents are and what they do later. Then the next category that we use in estate planning is trusts. And the big trust agreement that we use is a living trust agreement. And you'll learn more about funding later on, but the key thing to remember is that the living trust agreement is signed, becomes effective on the signing date, but it's not funded. Assets are not held within it until the first spouse dies. Another category is personal property transfer. I use this personal property as a separate category. I just get a lot of questions about personal property. I would say that there's 3 categories of property: real estate, personal property, and then financial accounts. And personal property transfers, the best way to transfer personal property is with a personal property memorandum. And this is just a document that the Revised Code of Washington says if it's found in your estate planning documents when you die, and it lists personal property items like the ancestral spittoon or cookie jar or a wedding ring that was handed down from one person to, whatever personal property items you can think of. It's just a list, so you can simply list the asset and the person to receive it, and that's effective at your death. Any personal property that's not listed on the personal property memorandum is called residue. We typically just have one big yard sale, and the cash proceeds are divided equally among the heirs. Financial accounts transfer by beneficiary designation forms. We'll talk about that later. And real estate is transferred by deed, quitclaim deed, or statutory warranty deed. The next category is disability and health. And so that includes your powers of attorney and your financial releases. People ask me about, what is a durable power of attorney? Forget the word durable. That's an archaic, stupid word that really has no meaning. The thing to remember is there's a document for financial decision-making and healthcare decision-making. A power of attorney is simply designating a third party to make decisions for you in the event that you're unwilling or unable to make your own decisions. It might be from old age, or it might be from stroke or incapacity. Financial decision-making power of attorney, that's a long document. It gives authority to a third party. We need a lot of rules when we have delegated to another person the ability to pay your taxes, pay your bills, or manage your assets. The healthcare power of attorney, a slightly smaller document, but still pretty beefy. It just lays out all the things that you want to occur when it comes to incapacity. So somebody's got to sign the hospital admission paperwork, and that's what that form's for. The release is just listing all the people in your family that you give permission, for the doctors to talk to. I mean, you might appoint your firstborn daughter to act as the healthcare agent under the power of attorney, assuming your spouse is deceased. But the other kids want information about you too when you're ill. So I just found that this document's very helpful. Another document I failed to list is the Advanced Directive or Living Will. That's a document that gives authority to the healthcare power of attorney to pull the plug. It's like if I'm incapacitated, terminally ill, and unconscious, permanently unconscious, I don't want that to drag on for months and years. And then finally, there's just this miscellaneous category. I would include funding instructions. So that's a big document in which we talk about how everything works. Another document is I call it humorously, Book of the Dead, and it's a step-by-step instruction document that I wrote really for you, but also for your kids. Somebody's got to pick up the file later. First death and surviving spouse is incapacitated. What do we do? And it's a step-by-step instruction. What do you do when the first spouse dies? What do you do when the second spouse dies? How do you move assets from point A to point B? Which is, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. Under miscellaneous, I would also include a document that is just end-of-life planning. Like, what is your burial plan? Do you want a memorial service? At the memorial service, do you want the Rolling Stones played with a slideshow or the Beatles? Whatever. The more information that you can give to your decision makers after you pass, just the less stressful it is for everybody. So that's the overview of the documents. There's quite a few documents there, but those are the broad categories. And we'll go through each one of those later.